members today. So we have Tom Bowman is with us. He's with UCAT resident. He's the UCAT resident MacGyver. So that's a pretty cool one. And then we also have Kent with us. He's had 25 years as the Assistive Technology Specialist. So I don't know if you guys want to go into a little bit more detail while we're waiting for him to do the poll, or?
Yeah, we will a little bit. Will you allow me to share my screen? We've got a couple slides at the beginning that we can share. And just as a little bit more than that, I'm Kent Raymond. I'm currently the director for Utah Center for Assistive Technology. We'll get into a little bit about what we do. We'll spend the first maybe 5 or 10 minutes about what we do as UCAT for any of those that don't know. As she mentioned, I have about 25 years of experience with assistive technology. I'll never say I'm an expert on the field because it just keeps moving and just keeps getting better and better and better. So I don't know if you have any additional information you want to give.
Yeah, I'm Tom Bowman. I'm also Assistive Technology Specialist. I've worked a lot with mobility. Used to run a wheelchair refurbishing program through Utah State University before coming to UCAT. So I've been about 10 years in assistive technology.
So I'll start by saying that we wanted to give something a little bit more unique for our session today. We're only guessing what people would want to hear and want to learn about. If at any time somebody has a specific question, please ask through the chat, or if you want to just turn on your microphone and ask. We're happy to go any direction this takes us. We'll share with what we think is interesting, and we hope you'll agree, but we're willing to adjust to whatever. So I'll just start out with that.
Perfect.
A little bit what to expect today. Really quickly, we're just going to go over the Utah Center for Assistive Technology, or UCAT, and what we do, just so people know really quickly about what is assistive technology. I always feel that's really important to discuss for people, just so they know. We'll do a very basic introduction to switches, different types of switches, who we use the different types of switches for, what individuals might use them. And then we're going to get into the basics of circuitry, because our idea behind this session is that we'll do show how we've 3D printed our switches. And when I go through this, a switch, very similar to, I don't know, these aren't good examples. I've got another table. A switch could cost like $60 that we buy online from, an official source. Tom has learned how to make these and 3D print them for dollars. He'll get into that, but very inexpensive. And then we'll get into switch adapted toys, some things to consider if you'd want to switch adapt your toys, different ways to adapt them. And then we'll talk a little bit about gaming, adaptive gaming. Just real briefly, we don't have a lot of information on that. And then if we have time, or if somebody wants to nudge us along a little bit better, there's very advanced switch projects that we've done that we could show that are really cool. We'll get to that a little bit later, though. So let me jump through the boring part of this, but let's come up in interesting order. So the Utah Center for Assistive Technology, we're located in Salt Lake at 1595 West, 500 South. We serve anyone in the state of Utah. And by serving them, I say that we'll do evaluation of an individual's needs. And so if somebody has a disability, they can contact us, UCAT. You don't have to have an agency that you're working with. Somebody could just find us online and give us a call. We were set up as a multi-agency organization, so we're state funded, but we will go out, and any individual in the state of Utah, we'll go out and meet with them to determine what assistive technology might meet their needs based on any abilities, any limitations, anything that they're experiencing in their life. So this could be anything from computer access, tablet access, home evaluations, if they would need a ramp or a door opener, to recreation, to all sorts of things. We're just all about independence. If somebody wants to be independent doing a task, and they're unable to because of a limitation or disability, we'll try to find a way past that. That's probably the best that I can give. You can search for us on the web and try to find Utah Center for Assistive Technology. Our webpage is not great. I'll just tell you that right now. It might be easier to see some of the projects that we've done just by going to YouTube, or we're on Facebook, and we post many of our projects there to get a better idea of what we do. But is really what we'll do, we'll help with the device selection. So we'll see what ability somebody has, and then we'll try to match them with the technology. At that point, we hope that we could let somebody try a device for 30 days so we make sure that it's going to work for them. We have a shop where we can modify things and customize things in the shop for individuals. We have our experts here, which I'll get to our next slide and just kind of briefly explain those really quickly. So I'll try to pause every so often. If there's any questions, great. If not, then I'll usually just keep going after a 5 or 10 second pause, just allowing people to ask any questions if they have any. Quickly, this is our staff. We have Jay Wheeler, he's our occupational therapist, and he just does occupational therapy things. Right? He'll do some home evaluations, office modifications, things just to help people get back to work. Bryce Clayton does a lot of our vehicle modifications and determines the right vehicle setup for an individual, whether they just need to ride in the vehicle or drive it themselves. We have Tom here. We'll get into more of what we do. Ed Whiting is down in the shop, really, really great with shop projects, modifying things. There's some great YouTube videos on our page on YouTube of things that we've adapted for individuals, whether they wanted to keep working or recreation, things in their home. He's really brilliant about coming up with ideas like that. You have me at the bottom left there. Heard a little bit about myself. Mike Offit, he's a computer specialist and does some educational type things, speech to text, text to speech, but he's mainly kind of a computer expert. We have Austin Oseguera. He and Julia Pierce next to him, they administer an interagency agreement that we have with the Board of Education to help school districts across the state. In school districts, if an individual has a 504 or IEP, then they can have assistive technology services. There's teams throughout the state, 30 teams, that can go evaluate a student's needs to see what educational assistive technology could be helpful to them. And they help administer that and just kind of oversee, do a lot of trainings. If you have more questions on that for assistive technology in the schools, reach out to Julia or Austin or myself, any of us, and we can start giving you information about how you can get services that way. And then we have Noreen Roca that oversees a program with our independent living centers across the state. There's 6 independent living centers that do some really cool stuff. These aren't residential centers where people live, but if anyone knows of Options for Independence, Roads to Independence, Utah Independent Living Center, Ability First, there's one in Price, Active Reentry, and then RRCI, Red Rock for Independence. Anyway, so she kind of oversees some things that we have partnerships with them. And again, let me get into assistive technology really quick. I just think this is extremely important for people to know. It has 2 parts, the definition of it, the AT device and the AT services, the assistive technology service. The official definition for these, you can see that on your screen there. The device is any item that we think of, whether that's the wheelchair, the walker, the actual device, crutches, knee scooter, all sorts of things. That can be the stuff. So that's important. But as what we like to stress is, along with the device is the service that comes along with that. And many times it's just as important or maybe more important than the device, because with the service, we call that the helpless stuff, right? And that's for us to help go out, do a really good evaluation. And we've learned how to do these over the years. We use a specific framework that we use to determine what somebody needs. And we'll meet with somebody for an hour, 2 hours, sometimes longer, to determine what they're going to need. And number one, to do a really great thorough evaluation, really get to know the individual, to know what their needs and what their tasks are, what their goals are, to match them with the technology, let them trial it and use it, and then to recommend it. We don't have funding for devices, but we work closely with Voc Rehab, Independent Living, Division of Services for People with Disabilities. There's other people that will fund these. And then to get the funding, and then it's important once it gets funded and to the individual that it gets set up properly, right? So that people know how to use it. So it's very complicated to get the device, but
Hey, Ken, we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself, please?
sure. I don't know how long I was muted.
Just a few seconds, wasn't long.
Okay. All right. So it's just important to make sure that we get the right items to the individual and set up properly. Worst thing that we want is, maybe an augmentative communication device, and it gets delivered to them, and there's a bunch of things that they don't want to communicate, right? I don't know. I won't come up with any silly examples, but you guys know what I mean. So that's our first little just intro to UCAT and assistive technology. Any questions at that point? If not, we'll just keep going. Let's see. So let's start out with, as I said, please chime in if you have a direction that you'd like to go, if you have any questions. We're going to talk about switches and switch adapting things. So I wanted to touch on this really quickly. Many people may know just the basics of a current and the light switch in your house. This is going to relate exactly to switch adapting a toy. If the switch is up at your house, you want to turn on your light. As you can see there, you flip the switch and it closes the circuit, allowing the electricity or the connection to send that signal past. And that's all a switch is like a light switch on your wall. We click it and it closes that loop so that it will activate what we wanted that to activate. Very, very basic, very general, but many people may know that, but I just thought it would be quick and easy to show that. So let me show you now. I will stop sharing my screen. I wanted to show everyone a wide variety of switches that we work with. Yeah, maybe move the card a little bit closer so that I can explain what we do when we meet with somebody to do an evaluation. We first consider the switch, and we'll show you some switch adapted toys here in just a little bit. That's kind of the second part of what we want to do. But if we want to meet with an individual, we try to find the most reliable access that somebody has. And that could be hitting it with their hand, right? If they want to hit a switch with their hand, it could be a head switch. We have twitch switches. I'll just start going into these. This is the basic of all switches. Just your typical switch that clicks, pretty big, large in size, right? I'd say that's maybe 2.5 inches across. This is your very basic switch. We can plug that into any type of device. Dog over here. Let's see examples of these. So basic switch, we hit it, and it activates a switch adapted toy. You can add that again with this toy specifically to get it to stop. We can get into the complexities of toys. It depends on the individual that we want. Usually when we're working with switch adapted toys for individuals, we want that individual, the child, the adult, whoever that is, to start realizing that there's cause and effect. If I hit the switch, I'm going to get a reaction from it. So we want to match a toy that they might be interested in. And I'll go into some other examples of how we've interacted with individuals with these different switches. This is just the super basic, hit the switch, song, a cute little toy activates itself. But then we can just get into really a bunch of other switches. This one is a lever switch. And so maybe an individual doesn't have the ability to hit the regular switch. We might put this up where their access point is maybe off to the side, where they can lift their hand. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. And if they can hit it, then we'll activate it. So that's a great little lever switch that allows somebody that has less mobility, less movement to be able to hit that. We could set that up on the head, a foot, a knee. We want to find the most reliable access point, as I had mentioned. And different switches are important. So this one takes a little bit of pressure and some effort to activate. You have to press it pretty good. We have others that are just extremely sensitive.
Zoom in on this a little bit.
This one's a microlight. I mean, this almost, call it a feather light. It takes very little effort to hit. Very, very little. I'm just barely touching that with my hand. So that one's good and bad, right? A lot of times you could get somebody might hit that by accident, and you might get some false from it. Sip and puff, where somebody could puff into a tube to get it to activate. We have finger switches. I'm just going to show a whole bunch of different switches here. Pillow switches. It's a little bit softer. This one's called a proximity switch. So if you can even just get close to this and not even touch it, it will activate. And for certain individuals, that works just brilliant. Maybe it has batteries, maybe it doesn't. Probably not. Okay. All right. So as you can see, and it goes well beyond this. We can do a twitch switch so that it's maybe on somebody's eye, and so it realizes when the skin is folded a little bit, and will activate. We have a fun one here that I could show you. Well, it's lost in my. Oh, here it is. So we have one that's a mercury switch, and a lot of times it's being creative in how you implement these. This one, there's a little, they call it mercury. I'm assuming there actually really is mercury in that. When it tilts down to a certain level, it activates whatever we want it to activate. So some fun that we've had with this is when we meet with an individual, maybe it needs to be this. Oh, it is up. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, a great one that we've done with that is we were at a school district and we saw that a physical therapist was working with an individual to keep her head up. She was in a wheelchair and they were, seeing how long she could hold her head up. And we started talking to them about some needs and, we started asking, well, what does she really like? What's her motivator? And they said, well, Disney songs she loves. She just loves Disney songs. So we came, as what we made was with a mercury switch, we allowed it to be connected to an iPad, and then we hot glued this to a Brett. They would put it on her head was down, and if they raised her head up, the music was activated from the iPad or the iPhone, whatever the music source was. Her head came up, the music turned on, you could see her eyes light up. And then she's like, oh, that's cool, and then she got tired and her head came down, the music shut off. So it only took a couple times for her to realize when they'd lift her head up that the music would stay on. And that gave her the motivation to lift her head up and keep her head up, strengthen those muscles in the neck, try to keep her head up more often. It was more than, her physical therapy then turned into maybe more of a game or something that she enjoyed. So we can do all sorts of things with switches. I thought we'd just kind of start there. Yep, we don't have much time. We'll keep going. Let me have Tom talk to you guys a little bit about 3D printing switches. As I had mentioned, the price typically is around $60 and goes up from there. And I'll let him explain for the next 5 or 10 minutes some of the switches that he's built, how he's done it quickly, and he could maybe show you some other 3D printed things that he's made.
So the switch that Kent showed earlier is actually one that was 3D printed. And the equivalent switch on the market, you could buy from vendors and everything, is going to be at least $50. The larger and more specialized, the more expensive it is. Realistically, this switch is made from these components. I'm going to try and turn this camera down just a little bit. Essentially, this little group of parts right here, no more than $5 worth of parts that go into making this switch. So I've kind of done some digging online, and there actually are a lot of designs. This switch in particular is one that we've used quite a bit, and this design is on a website called Thingiverse, which is basically these design files are shared, and it takes a little bit of knowledge. These parts right here, the black, the white, and the yellow are 3D printed. The cost of that material is
very minimal,
less than $1, I would say. A length of wire, and then this is at the core of the switch itself. It's a micro switch. You could buy these on Amazon, less than 50 cents each, if you buy enough of them. So those assembled then become this and replace the $50, the $50+ switch. I've got several examples of those. This was a design that I got online. I tried to figure out just how simple I could get with the switch and how inexpensive. This switch only has 3 parts to it: the 3D printed base, the switch that I bought on Amazon, and then a wire. So this is super easy. You might recognize this as actually, they call these arcade switches. They're also maybe $1.50 each. And yeah, so this is maybe $3 worth of materials and, maybe a half hour's time at most. So, these can be quite affordable, and there are ways to get these made. If you or someone needs a switch, and it's cost prohibitive, we can potentially step in, and there's other nonprofits and other resources available for folks. So there doesn't need to be if someone needs a switch, there's a way to get switches to them if cost is an issue.
Right.
Yeah. So I do have some other examples of switches I've made, designed. This is more of a grip switch. If you've had a hearing test, you use this to replace this is, I think the last one I looked at was $80. These are the guts of it, and it's every bit as effective as the higher dollar ones. And again, it's less than $5 to make those. So I don't know shall I delve into anything else? Or
let's show some of the other stuff that you've done. If anyone's interested in getting these files, we can create like a Google Drive, put those in those, and then you would just download them. And if anyone has a 3D printer, it's almost as simple as just dropping them into the program of the 3D printer, and it will create it. Yeah, you just want to show some of the other stuff that you've made.
So we had a request from an occupational therapist in Park City to assist a lady that only has use of one hand and is learning to sew and wants to help her mother and her sisters in sewing. So this is a design that I came up with. This is a pair of Fisker scissors. I 3D printed this. This little plate holds the scissors in place, and it can be used with one hand. And then we just put some anti-slip, material, dice them on the bottom. 3D printing has allowed us to really kind of customize things in ways that would have been harder. This was a request from one of the school districts to use what essentially is part of a index card and a task tracker to help students kind of stay on task. So when a task is completed, the put the child's name and a reward, and they can track tasks, if I could say that, with this. And here's another 3D printed item. You can see that it actually can't really see the texture. It's the Death Star. But there's a screw in that holds any kind of writing, from a marker to a pencil and everything in between. And it's a different grip. We've kind of had some fun doing some different designs with 3D printing. There are a lot of items like this that are available. This plastic is 3D printed. This is a key turner aid for those that don't have the manual dexterity to handle that. Yeah, a lot of different examples of key turners that we found online. And this just kind of one last one. This is also a writing aid. This was an existing design that then I kind of modified, because we had this will hold some kind of a writing device, pen or pencil, and you push down on this. If you don't have the manual dexterity to hold a pen or pencil well, push down and then you can write. We found that it was hard to keep pens in grip, so I basically made some rubber grommets to fit in there to hold this at a different size. So anyway, you can see that things can be customized for folks, on a different level, and with an accuracy that 3D printing, that we really didn't have before 3D printing was so common and so easily accessed. So
yeah. Any questions again yet so far?
speaker has been used. Oh,
At 12:15. Well, I don't know what happened then. All right. We will keep going. Try to get that straight. Yeah, as Julia said there, you can contact us if you want any of the files. Let me show you some other questions that we often get about switch adapting toys. A lot of people want to switch adapt their own. It's interesting. It's very hard for us to say how easy or how difficult it is to switch adapt a toy. The easiest way is with a battery interrupter. And basically all that is a little disc that's made of copper or metal, and then a cord, and then the jack is there that you would plug the switch into. So this is the easiest, but the tricky part with this is the only toys that this will work with is like the Energizer Bunny, right? It will go and go and go until you never stop it. That's the only way that the battery interrupter can work with these toys. And usually it's some of the older toys. You can see my Rudolph here, very old. When you turn it on, he'll go forever until the batteries die. And so that's a perfect example of when a switch switch interrupter will work, because basically we put it in the battery compartment and shut it, and is what that, well, I guess it broke. Not very high quality. What that will do is block the current from going into that battery until we plug a switch into it. And you can see, I mean, that took just a couple seconds to put the battery interrupter in there, plug a switch into it. And again, going back to the basics of circuitry, when we close that,
it should work.
It should work. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, that's the basics of, oh, I put it on the wrong side, sorry. User error. So with that in there, as you can see, that's a very simple way to switch adapt toy, but it's not always the easiest because those toys are kind of hard to come by. If we were to get the dog here, I mean, there's not a switch where you turn it on and it just goes forever. We have to then, these typically have, you know, a switch in the foot. And is what we have to do is go into and find those switch points, cut into the wires. It gets a little bit more difficult with these types of toys. Not impossible though. Those aren't too bad. Some of the toys that are really, really, really difficult that we don't like to get into as much is, everyone knows the old Tickle Me Elmo. These are very complicated because they have multiple switches, one in his chest, hands, and feet. And really, when we take apart the foot, there's a computer board in there that controls everything. And these are actually very, very difficult to modify. We can do them, but sometimes we just stay away from doing it just because it's so hard. So switch adapting toys isn't always the easiest. And so when people ask us how hard it might be or if they can learn how to do it, we can show people how to do it. If you have a toy that you'd like switch adapted, we've had many people that have come in where they're, you know, just a parent, a family, occupational therapist, physical therapist, and we'll go through it with them. We love to do it when people come in. We'll go down to the shop, take it apart, pull out our soldering kit, and adapt those toys for individuals. So we can do that. But I'll be honest, a lot of the toys that we get, we just buy switch adapted. We don't go to the complexity of ordering from, say, Walmart or Target or somewhere and then adapting them. Typically, you can find them online, already adapted for maybe $10, $15 more. There's a great Etsy page where people can, there's this guy, I think he calls himself a Santa Claus of something. I don't know. I don't remember.
He's got YouTube videos and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So anyway, that's switch adapting toys. As far as other things that we've adapted, the fun thing is when we start adapting toys, we open up the world to the individual many times. Let me show you some projects here. This is one that has been adapted already. And this is just an art machine, you know, where it spins and then you can put the paints on it. These are really great, like at the schools, because they're switch adapted. We can plug a switch into it. That individual powers the device, has it spinning, where a lot of times the other peers in the classroom can then add the paints to it to create some really, really cool art. So a collaborative project with a student and other peers in the classroom, those are really great just to get people working together. There's switch adapted bubble machines. Julia Pierce that works here at UCAT, she's going to be at the event tonight with bubble machine. So if you want to go try that out with her, the party that's happening tonight. She's got some other toys. I think she has some plans with little races, this and that, with switch adapted toy. So that could be fun. All sorts of things to. We've created a Nerf gun, switch adapted. Push this a little bit further away. This was a project that we did that had a family. They did a lot of Nerf. Not supposed to use the word gun, I've heard recently. Nerf, whatever this is called. But so we switch adapted this. So this could plug into it. And this is actually pretty cool. Turn that on. And there's a great YouTube video on our page where Kevin Christensen, he was our occupational therapist. He adapted this. We put it online and some big, I don't know, influencer page picked it up and it got pretty big, but it was pretty cool. So if you can see this, I guess you can't see those lying out there, but I don't know. So That's our fun that we had with the Nerf projectile thing. Let's see what else might be interesting. Let's touch a little bit on the gaming aspect. So Microsoft has taken a really good approach to gaming. They created this adapted gaming for Xbox. You can use this on a computer also, but as you can see, aside from the hand controller, which I'm trying to see if I have one, I think it's in the other room. You know, the different switches A and B, and then you can use the scrolling wheel, and then all the buttons are here. Because what was really cool about this is on the back side, they created a switch port for every function of a typical gaming stick. And so any one of those we can plug a switch into, and it could be the right trigger, left trigger, right button, A, B, X, Y. I mean, you have the whole realm of switch adapted handheld that you could use. So they've done a really great job with this, allowing people to game that just have mobility issues or maybe limited abilities. So they've done a really great job. I think that's about $119, but really, really great. We've got an Xbox here that we can match people up to see what's going to work best with them. Again, then we have to put the correct switch in that, whether it's your typical switch, sip and puff. I mean, there's all sorts of switches that come with that. So, I don't know how interesting this will be also, but Logitech, in relation with Microsoft, they came out there with this switch kit. It comes with 10 really, really great switches for $100. I mean, that's a killer deal. There's all sorts of switches. And then as what happens with this is there's then like a pad that has Velcro on it so it can stay in place. People game really, really great with this and that Xbox adaptive controller. But we can really switch adapt a lot of things. So if anybody has something, there's a Go Baby Go program that we've done a lot with, where we adapt a vehicle, a little 12-volt car. It might be best to go to our YouTube page to find some videos of that, where small kiddos that very limited mobility. This was a project out of Delaware where we're buying these cars. Anyway, we switch adapt them so that you can hit a switch.
Wheel that one over.
Yeah, maybe so. So they can hit a switch, will activate the car and allow them to move. And a lot of times, this is the very first time that some of these kiddos are having the ability to propel themselves or move. And the studies that Delaware is doing is that with a lot of without movement, rolling over, running into things, going over, going under, that whole aspect of movement, cognitively they're falling way further behind. And so we're adapting these vehicles so that kids can then start having control over, and it's cool and it's recreational. So this is one of the vehicles that we're about to adapt. Some of them get very, very nice. This was about $500, I think. But again, instead of pushing the pedal with their foot, we're just allowing them to press that with their hand. Or a great video that we have on YouTube is the individual that we made the car for. Really, his reliable movement was to bring his elbow back. And so I think you probably 3D printed that for Jay. It was something that we mounted on the side of the car so that when he was in the car, he would hit it with his elbow and then he could go. So pretty cool. That's the Go Baby Go program. Again, you'll see some examples of that if you go to our YouTube page. In our last couple minutes, let me show you. I've got too many tabs open, sorry.
let's try this one. Some of the fun projects that we've made. Let's see. This is a project that we had that came from Alpine School District. They had a student that wanted to sew in a home ec class, and as all they could do was hit a switch. They had a peer tutor with them. Anyway, so we took this, sorry, the name has escaped me, a power link. So anything that you plug into it, then you can plug in switches. This is a really great device. I won't get into the specifics of it, but it does many things. But this one, it allowed us to press a switch, and it would power the sewing machine. Pretty cool. We actually made a couple of them for the school district. Same device, just older, but that's the power link. Anything that you plug in that, it will activate. So you could plug a blender into it. You could plug a fan into it. Any number of things. It would activate so that when you hit the button and release it, it's only going to activate it for that long. Some of those dials on there are different settings. We could set it so that it would run for, say, 30 seconds. So if we wanted to do something like blending, have somebody participate in making a smoothie, they could add everything into it, and then that individual would hit it. Maybe we set on 30 seconds. It's going to run the blender for 30 seconds and then shut itself off. Really cool device. Let's see. Here's one of our Go Baby Go projects. I forgot I had this on there. Whoops. Now I'm jumping all over the place. One of the first ones that we'd ever done. So you can see with this this individual, she couldn't quite figure it out, right? She's accidentally, I'd say, hitting the switch, realizing that maybe that's gonna allow her to move the car. Not really loving it right now. Oh, they can't see it? Oh, well, that's not good. That's not showing up, Julia? Well, darn it. That's a waste of time then. All right, well, we'll skip that. If that's not showing up for you guys, I'm sorry. We are at a little bit of past quarter till. I didn't know if this last little bit is for questions. The YouTube channel, probably the easiest and best is to search for Utah Center for Assistive Technology. We can drop that in the actual link in there, but I'd say maybe just search for the Utah Center for Assistive Technology.
She's asking what's the YouTube channel?
That's what I mean. I would just search for Utah Center for Assistive Technology. Oh, there it is. Thanks, Julia. That was hidden. Did we want the last little bit for any questions, or where are we at right now? You wanted us to go for 45 minutes, I know.
Looks like we do have a question on there, wondering if you know about tracking devices for kids that wander. That's a good one.
So that is a good one. Thanks for that. So I'll tell you the two ways of thinking and my personal opinion. There's actually devices like watches that individuals can wear. Verizon has one. Those have data built in. They're about $10 to $15 a month just to have the data. And if you have a wandering kid, they will track it. Is what I actually love now are AirTags, if you have Apple devices. And then Tile is another one that would work with Apple or Android. I don't know exactly how the Tiles work. Let me just touch on the AirTags. They're about $29, and is how they work is you pair that with your phone. I just went on a trip and I paired one to my luggage, and is what it does when it's away from me, it starts connecting to other people's phones and locating where the item is. So
say somebody stole my bag and then they took off across Utah, I could pull that up on my phone and see exactly where that's at. So if you had an individual, this is what we have some here, and we'd love to share some for people that want to try them out, but to create like a little pocket in somebody's shirt, the individual, or some pants, maybe in their shoes, some way that if they leave, you would be able to pull that up on your phone. And I think this is a great use for these air tags to then see, oh, well, he went to the park, or, you know, he's at the school. You'd be able to see exactly where that individual is. There might be a little bit delay if he's not around somebody that has a cell phone. If if my knowledge is correct in how they work, they have to ping off other people's phones. How they do that privacy wise, I don't know, but Apple figured it out.
There is a question, what about AirTag with the bracelet that can't be removed? I have these AirTags for my daughter. When she has seizures, she takes off running after them. So we actually have this cute little bracelet, and the AirTag is hidden up underneath this little unicorn. So she doesn't even know she's got something on her. To her, it's a cute little bracelet.
Sure, right.
And she does pretty well with keeping that on.
Nice, very good. Yeah, that's why I wondered about that. If they took it off, if they might know, maybe a pouch inside some pants or shoes.
Yes.
Is another option. But I mean, for $29, really, really great price for that, and you could have multiples. They do a great job.
Let's see. Someone also said, also wondering if you have recommendations or things to look for in a 3D printer.
Tom, you have some advice that way? That's a great question, actually. Price, I guess.
Yeah.
Ease.
So there's some 3D printers that cost a little more, but the ease of use is, you know, pretty great. I'm happy to talk to folks, you know, if they're looking to buy a 3D printer, depending on what the application is, whether it's in a home or a school district or whatever the application is. But yeah, there are some that are super basic, very affordable, but require a lot more. I mean, 3D printing can eat up a lot of time tinkering and adjusting. So yeah, it does make a difference. The 3D printer being purchased. It all depends on whether it's just something for the home. There are 3D printing services. If you see something online and want whatever it is, and there's a lot of assistive technology that's free. The designs are free online. You can have them printed and shipped to your home. We can potentially help with things too as well. So yeah, reach out to us. You know, I'm happy to, you know, figure out what the specific application is, what the situations are, and yeah, we can recommend, you know, filament projects, printers. Yeah.
One of the popular ones off the top of my head, and I could be wrong. I'm I haven't even dabbled in 3D printing. And Ender 5 is that the name of one? Do we have a
Ender's? We have an Ender 5 Plus, which is a larger Ender 5. Yeah, that's for a large printer. It's less expensive, but it requires a lot of adjusting, and you got to calibrate it just right. Where if you buy something like a Bamboo, those are super popular right now. BAMBU, and they're as low as like 520, I think, is the lowest model, up to, you know, I think like 1200, but they're super plug and play. And, you know, it's almost to the point where I don't want to say it's hands off and, you know, like the Star Trek, what is it? The thing that magically makes things. It's not quite to that point, but it's getting a whole lot closer than these simpler, less expensive 3D printers. So there's some pretty impressive stuff that's a whole lot easier to use than the older, more open source Tinker mandatory printers that were out there. So
yeah. And then I think the schools are doing a great job, just, you know, having classes available and machines available. A lot of libraries have them where you can go in and just use theirs, drop your files into it. Maybe you pay for the filament by the gram, I think. But yeah, it's a difficult question. I wish it was easy to answer. We've bought a couple, and they weren't as easy as we thought they would be to use. Just a little heads up on that. But we could tell you our experience, and then maybe direct you towards other ideas based on some research.
Perfect. Looks like Julia also put Tom's email address in there if you guys have any questions about 3D printing.
Sure.
And again, we're happy to help people adapt things that they have. I know you couldn't see our videos. I apologize for that. One was a sewing machine. You probably heard me talk about that. We had one where we adapted a Wii controller. We had one, a ball thrower. This is a device that was on the market and it had a remote, and we just opened the remote and allowed it. So instead of hitting the button, an individual hit a switch. This is on our YouTube channel, but it would throw the ball, and then his service dog would go get the ball, bring it back, and there was a bucket on top, drop it in the bucket, and he'd hit the button again, and he'd play fetch with his service dog. So that was a fun one. Pretty simple to put together. Of course, we did the Nerf gun. We did one for an individual that she really only had the use of one hand. She wanted to be a photographer. And so again, we took the remote, opened it up, found those contact points, soldered a switch adapter into that. And then and then we put a switch on her hand, and she could use her hand to hit her leg as she held the camera up with the, her hand up with the camera, and then she could focus, but then use her other arm to take the pictures. So if somebody has something, a specific or particular device they want modified, we're happy to see what we can do to help out. With our team, we've pretty good with Ed, Tom, myself, Jay Wheeler. We've made some pretty cool adaptations to devices. And it looks like Julia dropped in the link to our YouTube channel. With anything else, just contact us if you have any questions about what we do, what we can do. If you need an evaluation, we can come out and do that.
Perfect. Well, on behalf of the Family Leagues Committee, I want to thank our presenters for all the information in our session and the content that they provided. We couldn't have done it without you guys, and we thank you.
Yeah, thank you.